And I want to thank you for being here. And I also want to get your reaction to the ruling that just came down from the Supreme Court on mifepristone, essentially kicking the can down the road until Friday.
Well, Kristen, good to be with you. And once again, we're seeing an abhorrence of justice. It's clearly a pharmaceutical that's effective, it's safe, it has been for many, many years. And the intervention of the judiciary to begin with is deeply troubling. We are a nation that often kicks the can down the road. I'm hopeful that this will be resolved, but we have to get to the source of the real problem here, which is a political judge in this case making a decision that deeply affects the health care of millions of women.
Were you surprised?
That's what's troubling.
Were you surprised that the court pushed this stay until Friday and didn't just make some type of determination?
Well, I think there's a there. We're not sure exactly what it is, but that's still just a few days from now. And like I said, I'm hopeful that they'll do the right thing. But I surely understand why many are suspicious.
Okay, Congressman, let's turn to your calls for Senator Feinstein to resign. As you know, a number of your colleagues have said that she has earned the right to make that decision when she is ready in her own time. What do you say to them?
Well, what I say first is Senator Feinstein's a remarkable American. Her service is extraordinary. But this is not about us. This is about our country. And we have a crisis of honesty in Congress. I think that's fair to say. And I'm tired of serving with people who say one thing privately and refuse to say the same thing publicly. And I call on all my colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans, frankly, to hold ourselves more highly accountable. This is not about her battle with shingles. It's not about her age. We have a number of aged members of Congress who are wonderfully effective. This is about competency. And I know those who serve most closely with her are aware of exactly what I'm speaking about. It has consequences. She's remarkable, but this is not a culture, a Congress that should be protecting our own at the expense of our country. And that's, I'm afraid, where we're heading right now.
You say something interesting, which is the folks who are willing to speak out privately but not publicly. And so it begs the question, have you heard from some of your colleagues in the Senate who say to you, yes, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm not prepared to say it publicly. I'm not prepared to say it out loud?
Absolutely, yes.
How many would you say? How many would you say?
Countless. Kristen, if you took a survey of those in the Congress, both the House and Senate, on this subject, I know what the results would be, and my colleagues know, but we have a culture of protecting ourselves at the expense of the country, and that's happening once again.
And countless senators, just to be clear, Congressman, countless senators?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Okay, are you prepared to name any of them here?
No, I'm not going to out other people. They know who they are.
Okay, let me play for you something that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to say about this, and then I want to get your reaction on the other side.
She deserves the respect to get well and be back on duty. And it's interesting to me. I don't know what political agendas are at work that are going after Senator Feinstein in that way. I've never seen them go after a man who was sick in the Senate in that way.
What say you about what Nancy Pelosi had to say?
Well, I also have deep respect for former Speaker Pelosi, but I disagree with her on this. This is not about sexism or about a man or woman. This is about general competency. It's not about being a Democrat or Republican. It's about doing the right thing. And I'm disappointed, frankly, in that comment. I think it's unfair. You know that my colleague Ro Khanna, a member of the California delegation, went first. I wasn't going to do this first, even though I felt this for some time. And again, this goes to a deeper problem, Kristen, about members of Congress being honest. I think that's why we have such, frankly, low expectations and low approval ratings, is because there are so few here that are willing, like I said, to say publicly what we all talk about privately. I'm tired of it. I didn't come here to play by the old rules and only on one team. I came to play for our team, which is all of us, and that's America.
So what's your message to Democratic leadership? Do you think that they should be leading the charge? Do you expect their current standpoint to change at any point? Do you expect that to happen? Well,
it's not members of the House's job to tell senators what to do. That's never well received. I think it's incumbent on members of the Senate, particularly Democrats, to be honest. In fact, I think it's more respectful to Senator Feinstein to find a thoughtful exit I'm afraid that people around her, the closest people to her, might be looking after their own interests, not the country's. And I think that's their job. And by the way, I think if Congress would start doing this, more Democrats and Republicans, we might just reestablish some faith in government, which is my mission. This isn't about hurting people's feelings, but sometimes it has to be done in the spirit of doing better for a country that really deserves it and needs it.
Congressman, let me ask you about Speaker McCarthy's proposal to increase the debt limit. Have you had a chance to review it yet? And is it something that you would support? Would you encourage the president to make a deal?
Well, first of all, it's irresponsible to even threaten taking the country over the fiscal cliff. We cannot default on our debt. My Republican colleagues know that. I know they know that. That said, I'm pleased that there's finally an opening volley. But let me get to the real nitty-gritty here. To actually rescind the dollars that we allocated to the IRS results in the loss of probably hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue that we will not be able to fulfill, but that should be paid. And that's why we're making these investments. So I find it quite ironic and somewhat amazing and shocking that here Mr. McCarthy would present a plan that would actually reduce the very revenue that we need to try to balance the budget. And if I could say one more thing, Kristen, the debt is one thing, but we're about to spend over $600 billion a year on the debt service, the interest, which means that we are spending more on the past than we are investing in the future. It's nonsense. Nobody can operate like this for long. So both sides are right here. Democrats, we're right. We can't go over the fiscal cliff. It's nonsense. Republicans are joining with a lot of we Democrats in recognizing that we have to budget differently and get our fiscal house in order. Two things can be true at once.
Given the urgency that you just laid out, given that you said, look, at least this is an opening gambit, should President Biden invite Speaker McCarthy to the White House and hammer out a deal? Is it time to negotiate?
To me, it's antithetical in a democracy to not negotiate. That's what we do here. This entire institution.
So that's a yes?
The answer is yes, but I also want to point out the Problem Solvers Caucus. We just introduced a very thoughtful resolution to this whole impasse today that appoints a bipartisan, bicameral commission to investigate ways that we can do this better. Regular order for budgeting, ensure that we get our fiscal house in order. That's what we should be doing anyway. It shouldn't take an act of Congress, if you will, to get that done. But I want to see negotiation. But I do agree with the president, Kristen, to use the debt ceiling and the potential to default on our debt as leverage is not just nonsensical, it's just damn right dangerous and foolish. And that's what troubles me.
Congressman, let me just ask you finally about 2024.
Sure.
You said last July that there should be a new generation of Democratic leaders, and in February you called it absurd that Democrats weren't promoting a challenger to President Biden in 2024. Do you stand by that, and who would you like the challenger to be?
Absolutely, I stand by it. You know, I listen to people every day, and we all think the same thing. We are a country predicated on competition. We need competition inside both Democratic and the Republican parties, and we need competition for the Democratic and Republican parties. We should not be a country that protects a duopoly and prevents political competition.
Who would you like to see challenge the president?
I want to see, Kristen, I want to see as many thoughtful, energized, articulate, young Democrats, middle-aged, even old Democrats, share that stage, share their ideas, their perspectives, because when we have competitions, the best win. That's what America's all about. We should do that in politics like we do in business and every other category. I think Joe Biden has done a spectacular job. I honor him. He's a man of integrity, competency, and compassion. But nobody in this country in particular should be anointed as our next president. We need competition.
I can't let you go until I get a name. Give me one name, and would it be Dean Phillips?
This is not about Dean Phillips. This is about people like Amy Klobuchar and Gina Raimondo and governors around the country, and maybe names that you don't even know of. Sharing that stage and sharing ideas for the future, that's what I care about deeply. It's not about demeaning President Biden. It's not about demeaning Senator Feinstein. It's simply competition is good, and I think it's time for a new generation to at least share the stage, if not take it.
Congressman Dean Phillips, thank you so much. I really appreciate your
Thank you, Kristen.
Answering all of my questions. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Coming up next, Florida Governor